The strange encounter. The forest was silent, too silent for comfort. Ethan walked carefully, his boots sinking into the soft ground of the alien world. He had been stranded here for 3 days after his ship malfunctioned in orbit. The crash had left him with bruises, a broken communicator, and no idea if rescue would ever come. This world was strange, filled with tall silver trees that bent toward the sky like frozen lightning. Their leaves glowed faintly in the dark, casting pale light over the ground. The air smelled of iron and wildflowers, sweet and sharp at the same time. Every sound echoed too long, as if the forest itself was listening. Ethan was tired, but he knew he couldn't stop. He had no food left, no clear idea of what creatures might hunt him. His only hope was to find water, shelter, or some kind of settlement. Then he heard it. A voice. Not human. It was low and musical, rising and falling like a chant. Ethan froze, hiding behind the trunk of a glowing tree. He leaned forward, listening carefully. The voice was close, and it was not alone. He heard the sound of movement, steps pressing into the soil, then silence again, as if someone was kneeling. Ethan's heart pounded. If this planet had intelligent life, he had to be careful. First contact was always dangerous, and he was alone. Still, curiosity pushed him forward. He took slow, quiet steps, parting the tall grass until he could see. There, in a clearing, stood a figure. At first, he thought it was a human woman, tall and strong. But as his eyes adjusted to the pale glow, he saw the differences. Her skin shimmered faint blue under the moonlight, like water reflecting the sky. Her hair was dark but streaked with silver strands that glowed faintly, as if alive. She wore pieces of armor, but most of it was laid out on the ground beside her, polished and shining. And she was unclothed. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He hadn't meant to look. He turned his face away, panic rising, but it was too late. The alien woman raised her head, her glowing eyes locking onto him instantly. For one terrible moment, time froze. Then she moved. Faster than he thought possible, she snatched up a blade from the ground. It curved like a crescent moon, humming faintly with energy. She pointed it directly at him. "You!" Her voice was sharp, powerful, and filled with fury. "Human!" Ethan raised his hands. "Wait, please. I didn't mean— You dare!" she shouted, her voice echoing through the forest. "You dare witness me in the sacred state?" Ethan blinked, confused. "Sacred state? I don't know what you mean." "I was just—" Silence. Her eyes blazed with both anger and fear. "By the law of my people, you have seen what no outsider must ever see. Do you understand what you have done?" Ethan shook his head, heart racing. "I don't understand. I didn't know." "I swear I didn't know." The warrior stepped closer, blade still raised, her movements sharp and graceful. She stood taller than Ethan, her presence overwhelming. "It does not matter if you knew. The law is clear. The punishment is death for you and for me." Her words hit him like a blow. "Death for me?" "For you? Why you?" She lowered the blade only slightly, her expression hard. "Because I allowed it. Because you saw me when I was vulnerable. If I return without binding you, the council will say I am dishonored. They will kill me, and they will kill you to erase the shame." Ethan's mind spun. None of this made sense. He had stumbled into something ancient and deadly, and now his life hung by a thread. "Wait," he said, voice shaking. "You're saying both of us will die because I saw you?" "Yes." Her tone was final, heavy as stone. Then her eyes narrowed. "There is only one path to survival." Ethan swallowed hard. "What path?" Her blade touched the ground, but her eyes never left his. "Marriage. You must become my mate. If the council believes our bond is true, they will let us live. If not, they will spill our blood." Ethan's mouth went dry. Marriage to an alien warrior he had just met? His thoughts tangled in fear and disbelief. "This is insane," he whispered, her gaze hardened. Insane, perhaps, but real. "Choose quickly, human. The night is not silent. My people will come. And when they arrive, if we are not already bound, we die." The forest seemed to lean closer, listening. Ethan's pulse thundered in his ears. He knew he had no weapon, no allies, no escape. The alien warrior stood before him, fierce and unyielding, her strange, glowing eyes waiting for his answer. In that moment, Ethan understood one thing clearly. His fate was no longer his own, and the true danger of this world had only just begun. The deadly law. Ethan did not sleep that night. How could he? The alien warrior sat across from him, her blade never leaving her hand. The silver trees glowed faintly, painting her features in shifting light. Her expression was calm, but her glowing eyes never softened. She was watching him the way a hawk watches prey. His mind kept replaying her words. Marriage or death? It sounded like madness, yet she spoke with the certainty of someone who lived under that law her entire life. There was no hesitation in her voice. To her, it was as real as the ground under their feet. Finally, Ethan gathered courage to speak. You said, if I don't agree, they'll kill us both. Why both? Why not only me? The warrior's gaze sharpened. Because honor is shared. You saw me in the state of ritual. It is not only your crime, it is mine for being seen. The council will say I failed in purity. My blood will pay for that. Her words were heavy, like iron chains around them both. Ethan stared at the glowing forest floor. He had studied alien cultures before, but never had he faced something this extreme. On Earth, people would laugh at the idea. Here, laughter would mean death. After a long silence, Ethan asked, "What's your name?" The warrior blinked, surprised by the question. Kaylin, she said at last. The name rolled off her tongue like a sharp blade drawn from a sheath. Kaylin, Ethan repeated quietly, as if anchoring himself to the sound. I'm Ethan. Her eyes narrowed, but she gave a small nod. Ethan, know this, if we are to survive, you must follow my lead. One wrong word, one wrong gesture, and they will know we are false. They will tear us apart. The words sent a cold shiver through him. Before he could answer, a distant sound echoed through the trees. Drums, low and slow, like a heartbeat made of stone. Kaylin stiffened, rising to her feet in one fluid motion. They come, she whispered. Ethan stood too quickly, stumbling back. Who comes? The Seekers, my kin. They patrol the forest for signs of dishonor. She moved fast, gathering her armor, strapping pieces to her body with practiced ease. Her glowing hair flickered with silver light as she pulled a cloak over her shoulders. Then she turned to Ethan. Listen carefully, she said, voice urgent. From this moment, you are no longer a stranger. You are my chosen mate. You must speak as if it is truth. If you hesitate, if you look away, they will smell the lie. Ethan's throat tightened. He had acted in plays during school, but this was no performance. This was life or death. What if I mess up? He asked. Her blade gleamed as she strapped it to her hip. Then they will carve your heart out and feed it to the roots of the silver trees. And I will die beside you. The sound of drums grew louder. Shadows moved between the trees. Figures emerged from the glowing forest. Tall, blue-skinned warriors like Kaylin, each carrying weapons that shimmered faintly with energy. Their eyes glowed brighter than the moonlight. They formed a circle around Ethan and Kaylin, their expressions cold, suspicious. One stepped forward, older than the rest, his silver hair long and braided. He wore a crest across his chest that shone like crystal. Kaylin, the elder said, voice deep, you return from the ritual. With a human? Every warrior's eyes turned toward Ethan, their gazes sharp enough to pierce bone. Kaylin lifted her chin, standing tall. This human is mine. He is my bondmate. The law has been fulfilled. A ripple of shock moved through the circle. Whispers rose like wind. A human? Impossible, blasphemy, a trick. The elder's eyes narrowed. You claim the bond. But is it true? Or is this weakness? Kaylin stepped forward, her voice steady. It is true. He saw me and now we are bound. To deny it would be to deny the law itself. The elder studied Ethan. The human's heart pounded so loud he was sure they could hear it. Sweat beaded on his neck. He forced himself to meet the elder's glowing eyes. He remembered Kaylin's warning. Don't hesitate. Don't look away. So he spoke, his voice trembling but clear. I am hers. Kaylin is my chosen. The whispers grew louder. The circle of warriors looked unsettled, even angry. The elder raised his hand, silencing them. His stare lingered on Ethan for a long, terrible moment. Finally, he said, If you speak truth, then the council must judge. The bond will be tested. If it is false, both of you will die before the next moon rises. Kaylin bowed her head slightly, her expression unreadable. We accept. The warriors closed in, surrounding them. Ethan felt their presence like a cage of living shadows. Kaylin placed her hand on his arm, her grip strong enough to bruise. Do not falter, she whispered. Not once. As they were led through the glowing forest toward an unknown judgment, Ethan realized something chilling. He was no longer a visitor on this world. He was trapped in its oldest law, bound by a marriage he never wanted and facing a trial he could not begin to understand. The alien planet had claimed him, And it was only the beginning. Forced alliance. The march to the alien stronghold was long and silent. Ethan walked between two tall warriors, their glowing eyes fixed on him, as if daring him to stumble. The air grew colder as they left the silver forest behind. The trees thinned, replaced by jagged stone rising from the earth like broken teeth. Ahead, carved into the cliffs, stood massive gates lit by blue fire. The alien city. Ethan's stomach tightened. He felt like a prisoner, though Kaylin walked beside him as if she owned the path. Her steps were steady, her head held high, her cloak flowing behind her. She looked like a commander leading an army, not a woman dragging a terrified human into danger. The gates opened with a deep rumble, and they stepped inside. The city was alive with light and sound. Tall spires of stone and metal reached into the sky, glowing veins running through them like rivers of molten silver. Walkways curved across the heights, filled with people who stopped to stare at Ethan. Everywhere he looked, glowing eyes followed him, whispers chasing his steps. A human? Impossible. She dishonors the law. Or maybe she bends it to her will. Kaylin ignored them, but Ethan felt their stares burning into him. He was a stranger here, a mistake forced into their sacred order. The warriors led them to a grand hall, vast and echoing. Pillars carved with strange symbols rose high above, and in the center stood a circle of seats carved from stone. The council. Figures sat upon them, cloaked in dark silver, their faces stern, eyes glowing brighter than the rest. The elder who had first spoken in the forest stepped forward. Kaylin, daughter of the line of Serath, you claim a bond with this human. The law demands truth. If you deceive us, your life ends here. Kaylin knelt on one knee, her voice strong. I do not deceive. The bond was sealed the moment he saw me. It cannot be undone. Ethan froze. Her confidence sounded real, but his stomach twisted with fear. What if they saw through him? What if they could somehow sense that he was just playing along to survive? The council murmured among themselves, their voices like wind swirling through the hall. Finally, the eldest spoke again. Then the trial will come. Until then, you are bound to each other in word and deed. You will eat together, walk together, sleep under the same roof. If one falters, both will fall. The warriors released their grip on Ethan and stepped back. Kaylin rose and placed a hand on his shoulder, guiding him firmly toward the side chambers. Her touch felt like iron shackles disguised as warmth. When they were alone at last, Ethan let out the breath he'd been holding. Sleep under the same roof? Eat together? This is insane. They actually believe this? Kaylin's gaze cut into him. They do not only believe. They will watch. Every glance, every word, every movement. If you slip, they will know. So learn quickly, human. You are no longer Ethan. You are my mate. He rubbed his forehead, trying to push back the rising panic. I don't even know what that means here. Then I will teach you, Kaylin said. Her voice softened slightly, though her eyes remained sharp. If you want to live, you will listen. She led him into a chamber lit by soft blue lanterns. The walls were etched with more glowing patterns, symbols that pulsed faintly as if alive. A long table stood in the center, covered with food unlike anything Ethan had seen. Fruits shaped like spirals, steaming meats that shimmered as if dusted with starlight. Ethan stared at it, unsure. Is any of this unsafe? Kaylin picked up a piece of the glowing fruit, bit into it, and chewed slowly. Her expression gave nothing away. She set the half-eaten fruit before him. Eat. If you refuse, they will call it insult. If you choke, they will call it weakness. Ethan hesitated, then took a bite. It was sweet. Almost too sweet, burning slightly as it slid down his throat. His eyes watered, but he forced himself to swallow. Kaylin watched him carefully, then gave a single approving nod. Good, she said. You learn. They ate in silence for a while, though Ethan's thoughts were anything but calm. Every bite reminded him he was pretending to be someone's husband, a stranger's partner in a world that wanted him dead. Finally, he asked, Why are you helping me? You could have let them kill me and saved yourself. Kaylin's eyes flickered with something he couldn't read. I told you. The law binds us both. Your death is my death, but... She paused, her jaw tightening. Also because I will not be shamed. Not by them. Not by anyone. If I must take a human as bondmate, then I will make it truth no matter the cost. Her words chilled him. She wasn't protecting him out of kindness. She was protecting her pride, her honor, and maybe something deeper Ethan didn't yet understand. When the meal ended, Kaelin led him to a chamber with 2 sleeping platforms carved into the stone. She pointed to one. You sleep there. Remember, tomorrow the tests begin. Do not fail me. Ethan sat down heavily, staring at the glowing walls. He felt trapped, his life balanced on a blade's edge. He had thought being stranded on an alien world was the worst thing that could happen. But now he knew the truth. The real danger wasn't the planet itself. It was the bond he had been forced into, one that felt less like marriage and more like a chain. And tomorrow, the world would see if that chain could hold. Secrets of the Alien World. The next morning came with no sunrise. On this alien world, the sky stayed dim, lit only by drifting ribbons of pale blue light that floated above the horizon. Ethan woke with a jolt, momentarily forgetting where he was. The stone chamber was cold, its walls glowing faintly with the same strange patterns that seemed alive, breathing in the darkness. Kaelin was already awake. She stood at the doorway, armored once more, her glowing eyes fixed on the city beyond. When Ethan stirred, she turned to him. You must rise. The council watches even now. Ethan rubbed his face, exhaustion pressing into his bones. Do they ever stop watching? Her lips curved, not quite a smile. No. To them, your breath is proof or a lie waiting to be caught. You must learn quickly. Ethan pushed himself up, frustration flaring. I'm trying, Kaelin, but your people expect me to be something I'm not. I don't even know their rules. Kaelin studied him for a long moment. Then, without a word, she beckoned him to follow. They left the chamber and walked through narrow passages that opened into a vast courtyard. The city stretched high above, bridges connecting towers that pulsed with veins of silver light. Alien children darted between glowing fountains, their laughter echoing in the air. Yet when they saw Ethan, their play stopped. Curious eyes widened. Whispers spread like wildfire. Human, the forbidden one. Her mate. Ethan kept his head down, every stare pressing heavier on his shoulders. Kaelin, however, moved with calm authority, her steps strong as if daring anyone to question her choice. At the far side of the courtyard, she led him into a smaller hall. This one was different, quiet, lined with shelves carved from stone filled with strange objects, crystals, scrolls, glowing tablets that hummed faintly. The air smelled of dust and iron. This is the Hall of Memory, Kaelin said softly. Here lies the law of my people. If you are to survive, you must understand it. Ethan looked around in awe. It felt like a library, but alive. Symbols on the walls shifted faintly, glowing and fading as if they were watching him. He stepped closer to a crystal slab and saw images swirl across it. Warriors in armor, strange beasts, a circle of figures standing in judgment. Your law, Ethan murmured. It's written here? Not written, Kaelin corrected. Remembered. Every stone, every symbol carries the weight of those who came before. My people do not forget. We do not forgive dishonor. Ethan touched the crystal lightly. It pulsed under his hand like a heartbeat. For a moment he saw something. A warrior kneeling before a council, chains across her arms. Then the image vanished, leaving only a cold glow. He pulled his hand back, unsettled. Kaelin watched him. Now you see why there is no escape. The law is not just words. It is alive. It binds us all. Ethan turned to her, frustration boiling. But why marriage? Why death if the law is broken? On my world, mistakes don't mean execution. Kaelin's eyes flickered. For the first time, her voice softened. Long ago, our people were betrayed. Enemies disguised themselves as allies, slipping into our ranks. They stole secrets, destroyed cities, killed thousands. So we made the law. If one is seen in their sacred state, they must bind to the witness. Bonded mates share honor, share blood. A spy cannot fake such truth. If they try, the trial reveals it. Her words struck Ethan like a weight. He realized this wasn't only about shame, it was survival, carved into their culture through centuries of blood. Then I really am trapped, Ethan whispered. Kaelin stepped closer, her gaze steady. We are both trapped, but chains can either break us or hold us together. That choice is ours. For a moment, the air between them shifted. Ethan saw not only the fierce warrior, but also the weight she carried, the burden of her people's judgment, the shadow of betrayal that shaped every law. Before he could respond, a sound echoed through the hall, the steady strike of a staff against stone. An old figure approached, cloaked in deep silver, his eyes glowing faintly green. He looked at Ethan with curiosity, not contempt. "So this is the human," the elder said, his voice rough but calm. "The one who stirs the council." Kaylin bowed her head slightly. "Elder Sarian," the elder studied Ethan. "Do you understand the weight you carry? Your bond will decide not only your lives but the strength of the law itself. If you falter, others will challenge it. If you succeed, they will fear it more than ever." Ethan swallowed hard. "And if I don't want any of this?" The elder gave a faint, humorless smile. "Then you should not have opened your eyes in the forest." With that, he turned and left, his staff echoing against the stone until the sound faded into silence. Ethan sank onto a stone bench, his head in his hands. "This is too much." "I didn't ask for any of it." Kaylin stood tall beside him, her hand resting lightly on the hilt of her blade. "Neither did I. Yet here we are." For the first time, Ethan noticed something in her voice, a crack, barely audible beneath the steel. Not just duty, not just pride, something human. He lifted his head, meeting her glowing eyes. "Then maybe we survive together, somehow." Kaylin's lips curved just slightly into something close to a smile. "Perhaps." Outside, the drums began to beat again, louder this time. The trials were drawing closer, and Ethan realized that understanding their laws was only the beginning. The hidden enemy night in the alien city was never quiet. The towers glowed with silver veins and the streets hummed with voices, the sound of markets and patrols continuing long after darkness fell. From his chamber window, Ethan stared down at it all, feeling both small and exposed. He couldn't shake the feeling that the whole city wanted him gone. Behind him, Kaylin polished her blade with slow, steady movements. The light of the weapon glimmered across her sharp features. She had barely spoken since the meeting in the archive. Ethan had almost grown used to her silence, but tonight it felt heavier. "They don't trust me," he said finally. Kaylin didn't look up. "Trust is earned. You have not had the chance to earn it." Ethan turned, frustrated. "And if they never give me that chance?" She slid the blade back into its sheath. Her glowing eyes met his. "Then you must survive without it." Before Ethan could answer, a sharp crack echoed outside. Like stone breaking. Kaylin moved instantly, faster than Ethan could blink. She grabbed him by the shoulder and shoved him down, pressing him against the cold floor. A heartbeat later, something whistled past his head and shattered against the wall, an arrow, its tip glowing faintly. The stone sizzled where it struck. Ethan froze. "What the poison?" Kaylin said grimly. She pulled him to his feet. "Move." They rushed into the corridor just as another arrow clattered against the doorway. Guards were shouting in the distance, but Kaylin didn't wait for them. She dragged Ethan down the hall, her cloak whipping behind her. "Someone's trying to kill me?" Ethan gasped. "No," Kaylin said. Her voice was low, dangerous. "They are trying to kill us." The words chilled him more than the arrows. They burst into the courtyard where blue lanterns flickered against the stone. Shadows darted across the rooftops, too fast to catch with the eye. Kaylin's blade was in her hand, humming faintly with energy. She pushed Ethan behind a pillar. "Stay hidden," she commanded, but Ethan couldn't stay still. His heart pounded as he peeked out. A figure leapt from the roof, landing silently in the courtyard. Unlike the armored guards, this one wore dark wrappings, face covered, twin blades glowing faintly in their hands. Kaylin stepped forward to meet them. The clash was sudden and fierce. Sparks flew as their blades met, ringing through the courtyard. Kaylin fought with precision, every strike sharp and exact. But the assassin moved like water, slipping and twisting, striking low then high. Ethan pressed against the pillar, watching helplessly. His instincts screamed at him to run, but he couldn't. This fight was because of him. The assassin lunged, blade flashing toward Kaylin's chest. She twisted aside, countering with a strike that sliced across the attacker's arm. The assassin hissed, stumbling back, but instead of retreating, they hurled one of their blades straight toward Ethan. He froze, eyes wide. Time seemed to slow. Then Kaylin was there. She slammed into him, knocking him to the ground as the blade cut the air where his neck had been. It struck the pillar, embedding itself deep. They hit the stone floor hard. For a moment, Ethan couldn't breathe. Kaylin's weight pressed against him, her hair brushing his face. Her eyes glowed with fierce fire. "Stay alive," she growled, pushing herself up. The assassin fled into the shadows before the guards arrived, vanishing like smoke. Shouts rose, boots clattered against stone, but the enemy was already gone. Kaylin stood tall, her chest heaving, blade still in hand. Ethan scrambled up, shaken. "They wanted me dead," he whispered. "They wanted us dead. Kaylin corrected. Her gaze swept the rooftops, sharp and cold. This is no random strike. A rival clan moves against us. They think our bond is weakness. They want to break it before the trial. Ethan swallowed. And they'll keep coming? Yes. She sheathed her blade with a sharp click. Until one of us falls. The guards surrounded them then, their eyes burning with suspicion. Some looked at Kaylin with doubt, others at Ethan with open hostility. Whispers rose again. The human draws death. She endangers us all. Kaylin silenced them with a glare. Double the patrols, she ordered. The shadows have moved. They will strike again. The guards hesitated, then obeyed, dispersing into the night. When they were alone, Ethan leaned against the pillar, his legs shaking. I can't do this, Kaylin. I'm not a warrior. I don't belong here. She stepped closer, her voice low but firm. You belong because the law says you do. And now, because I say you do. If they want to kill you, they must go through me. Remember that? Ethan looked at her, truly looked. This wasn't just pride or honor anymore. She had saved his life, risked her own without hesitation. For the first time, he felt something other than fear when he looked at her, a fragile thread of trust. But the city outside was restless. Somewhere in the shadows, enemies sharpened their blades, waiting for another chance. Ethan realized he wasn't just pretending anymore. He was in a war he barely understood, and survival meant standing at Kaylin's side whether he liked it or not. Word count, 820. The final trial. The drums began at dawn. They echoed across the alien city, slow and heavy, rattling through the stone walls. Every tower, every bridge, every glowing vein of silver seemed to vibrate with their rhythm. Ethan woke with his heart already pounding. He knew what the sound meant. The trial had come. Kaylin was already armored. Her cloak flowed behind her, her blade strapped at her side. She looked taller than ever, her face a mask of steel. When Ethan sat up, she turned to him. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not falter when they look at you. Remember, you are mine. Say it in your heart until it feels true. Ethan swallowed hard. His throat was dry. And if it doesn't feel true? Her eyes burned like coals. Then both of us die. The words left no room for argument. Guards arrived to escort them, their expressions unreadable. Ethan felt their eyes on him as they marched through the city streets. Crowds gathered along the paths, watching in silence, whispers crawling through the air like smoke. He caught fragments. The human. The false bond. The council will break them. The great hall loomed ahead, larger than Ethan remembered. Pillars rose like cliffs, etched with glowing lines that pulsed in rhythm with the drums. Inside, the council sat in their stone circle, their eyes bright as stars, their faces carved with judgment. The eldest rose, his voice deep enough to shake the walls. Kaylin, daughter of Sarath. Ethan, human outsider. You claim the bond of law. Today it is tested. If you stand true, you live. If you falter, you die. Kaylin stepped forward, her voice steady. We accept. Ethan tried to steady his breathing. We accept, he repeated in his mind. The first test began. 2 warriors brought forth a shallow bowl filled with glowing liquid. The elder spoke. The trial of blood. Bonded mates share one vein, one breath. Drink together. If the bond is false, the blood will burn. Kaylin lifted the bowl without hesitation. She handed it to Ethan first. He stared into it, the liquid swirling with faint light. His reflection wavered on its surface, fragile. His stomach twisted, but Kaylin's gaze anchored him. Ethan lifted the bowl and drank. The taste was metallic, burning his throat like fire. His vision swam, but he forced himself to swallow. His hands shook as he passed it back. Kaylin drank without flinching. The glow faded. The council murmured, their voices like wind. The elder nodded. The blood accepts you. The bond holds. For now. The second test came quickly. They were led into a circle etched with glowing lines. Warriors formed a ring around them, blades drawn. The elder's voice rang out again. The trial of defense. One protects, one endures. If either fails, both fall. 2 warriors stepped forward, circling. Ethan's stomach dropped when he realized what was happening. They were going to attack him. Kaylin's blade hissed free. She moved between Ethan and the warriors, her stance sharp, her body coiled like a spring. The first warrior lunged at Ethan. Kaylin struck like lightning, her blade meeting theirs with a flash. Sparks flew, the sound ringing through the hall. The second came from the other side, blade sweeping low. Ethan stumbled back, panic rising, but Kalen spun, blocking both in a flurry of strikes. Ethan could only watch, helpless, as Kalen fought like a storm. Every blow she turned aside, every strike she countered. Still, the warriors pressed harder, their blades singing with energy. One feinted toward her, then darted at Ethan instead. The blade came fast, too fast. Ethan moved without thinking. He grabbed a fallen spear from the ground, raising it just in time. The strike slammed into it, jarring his arms, but he held on. The warrior snarled, pushing harder. Ethan's muscles screamed, but he refused to let go. Kalen struck from the side, disarming the attacker in a burst of sparks. She shoved Ethan back, her voice sharp. "Stay behind me!" But the council had seen. Murmurs rose louder. The elder's voice boomed. "The human does not run. He stands, the bond strengthens, the fight ended soon after." The warriors bowed, stepping back into the ring. Kalen lowered her blade, her chest heaving. Ethan dropped the spear, his hands trembling. The final test was the hardest. The elder raised his staff. "The trial of truth, speak now. Before all, declare your bond. If you lie, the stones will break you." Kalen looked at Ethan. For the first time, he saw uncertainty in her eyes. This test wasn't about strength. It was about words. Ethan stepped forward. His throat was dry, his heart hammering. He looked at the council, at the crowd, at the glowing walls that seemed to lean closer. He thought of the law, of the archive, of the arrows in the night. He thought of Kalen standing between him and death more than once. He spoke, voice shaking but strong. "I am hers. Kalen is my chosen. I did not come here seeking this, but now, I will not break it. Not before you, not before her." The hall fell silent. The glowing lines in the floor pulsed brighter, then steadied. The stones did not crack. The council did not move. At last, the elder's voice thundered. "The bond holds." The trial is past. The hall erupted with sound, some in anger, some in awe. Kalen stood tall, her blade raised in salute. Ethan exhaled, his knees weak. For the first time, he felt something strange in his chest. Not just fear, not just survival. Something heavier, warmer. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't only pretending anymore. A new beginning. The drum stopped. For the first time since Ethan had arrived in the alien city, silence stretched across the great hall. The council sat unmoving, their glowing eyes locked on him and Kalen. The crowd's whispers had died to a hush, as if the entire city held its breath. The elder lowered his staff. "The trial is past. The bond is judged true. By the law they are bound." The hall erupted, some with cheers, others with cries of outrage. The sound swirled like a storm. Ethan stood in the center of it, breathless, hardly believing what he'd heard. He had survived. They had survived. Kalen placed a hand on his shoulder, grounding him. Her voice cut through the chaos. "Stand tall, human. Do not show them fear. Not now." Ethan straightened, though his legs trembled. The council rose, each member lifting a hand in solemn salute. The elder's voice rang out again, carrying above the crowd. "The bond stands. Let all clans bear witness. Let all remember." But not all accepted. At the edge of the hall, a figure stepped forward. His cloak bore the mark of a rival clan, a jagged crest of black and silver. His eyes glowed with cold fury. "This is a trick, a weakness." The law is twisted by her hand. Murmurs spread quickly. Several warriors nodded in agreement, their stares sharp with anger. The rival's voice grew louder. "How can a human, a fragile, wandering outsider, be bound as one of us? It is an insult to our blood." Kalen's grip on her blade tightened, but she did not move. Instead, she spoke, her voice ringing with authority. "You call it insult. I call it law. The stones have judged. Do you dare stand against them?" The rival sneered. "Stones can be broken. So can false bonds." The crowd shifted uneasily. Guards stepped closer, but the council raised a hand, silencing them. The elder's gaze cut through the tension. "Enough, the law has spoken. Any who defy it defy the memory itself." The rival's glare burned, but he bowed stiffly and stepped back. The whispers did not fade, though. They only buried themselves deeper, like seeds waiting in the dark. That night, Ethan and Kalen returned to their chamber. The city was restless, voices carrying in the streets below. Ethan leaned against the stone wall, exhaustion pulling at him. "I thought we were finished in there," he admitted, "that they'd never believe us." Kalen removed her armor piece by piece, setting it down with care. Her expression remained unreadable. Belief does not matter. The law does. We passed the trial. That is enough. Ethan studied her for a long moment. But it's not just the law anymore, is it? Not after everything. Kaylin froze. For once, the mask of the warrior slipped. She turned to him slowly, her glowing eyes softer than he had ever seen. At first, I wanted only to survive, to protect my honor, to keep my place. But now, she hesitated, then stepped closer. Now I see something else. You stood when you could have fled. You fought when you could have hidden. You chose to claim me even when you could have let us both fall. Her hand brushed his arm, light but steady. Perhaps the bond is no longer just law. Perhaps it is choice. Ethan's chest tightened. For days he had felt like a prisoner, a pawn in rules he could never understand. But hearing her now, seeing the weight lift from her voice, he realized something had changed. They had faced death together, and somehow it had bound them more than any trial. He gave a small, tired laugh. Guess that makes us married then. Kaylin tilted her head, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Yes, and in my world marriage is not a chain. It is a blade. Two edges sharp together. Alone each may break. Together they cut through all. Ethan let her words sink in. For the first time he didn't feel trapped, he felt stronger. But outside the city was not at peace. In the rival clans' halls, whispers grew into plans, anger into blades. They had failed to break the bond today. They would try again tomorrow. Kaylin seemed to sense it too. She drew her cloak around her shoulders, her gaze distant. Do not think this is the end, Ethan. Passing the trial is only the beginning. From now on, every step we take will be challenged. Every breath we share will be tested. Ethan nodded. For the first time, he did not feel afraid of those words. He looked at her, steady and unyielding, and found strength in the fire of her eyes. Then let them test us, he said. We'll survive. Kaylin's faint smile deepened, sharp and proud. Yes, we will. The drums began again in the distance, slow and heavy, echoing across the night. Not of judgment this time, but of warning. The city had accepted the bond. But in its shadows, war was already waiting, and Ethan, once only a lost human, now stood at the heart of it. No longer by accident, but by destiny.